Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on September the 3rd, 2019. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, the caffeinated and charming...
The Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we will of course be discussing the games that we played this week. NBA 2K20 focuses on gambling and their new trailer. Telltale Games returns, sort of. Former Starbound devs accuse Chucklefish of massively unethical working practices. A new games-based curriculum offered by High School Esports League and Microsoft. We will have our weekly community corner and a Steam weekly discovery queue. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage.
Hello.
How are you?
Well, suffering from having too much pollen.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah, it was a rather nice day to go to the post office. But it was also a really nice day for everyone to mow their lawns. So, I got back home and it felt like I had a chest cold.
Yeah. It's worst for me in spring. Thankfully, this summer around here anyways, it's been very dry. So I guess thankful from a pollen standpoint. There are definitely reasons where more rain would have been helpful. Mm-hmm. But it's not been too bad for me this summer. For the most part. So I mowed my lawn yesterday morning before taking a day trip for the holiday. And I had no ill effects whatsoever as far as I can tell. I'm sure they'll come later. And for everyone in the United States who's listening, I hope you had a good holiday weekend. If you were someone who got Labor Day off, I did, and I felt fancy.
Also known as any other Monday for you.
I do feel fancy every Monday. Footloose and fancy free. I do a little dance. But yeah, I had a good weekend. Played a lot of games. Did a few other things too. Chatted with you. Watched some good anime. I've not been able to stop thinking about it, honestly. Like we did wind up at a good place to stop, but I still wanted to watch more.
Yeah, My Hero Academia is really good.
Yeah, we are in the second season in the school sports festival, which has a tournament arc. And I think it's about to get to the good stuff. Not that any of it's been bad, but like the longer one-on-one superhero fights. So yay, superhero fights.
Yeah, I really enjoy that show. It has a really good universe.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Sometimes it doesn't make a lot of sense, but at the same time, it's awesome enough that you just go with it, right?
Yeah, I think a lot. I mean, I've come up with some theories, which you said you knew a few things, but we're at the same spot in the show. I've come up with a few theories for things that I hope turn out to be right, because if they do, that means that my sort of literary senses were tingling correctly. Or my theming, like I've started studying this stuff for fun as a hobby. So if I'm right, then that makes me feel really good about myself. And if I'm not, it's still fun. It's not like it, matters in the grand scheme of things. But
at the same time, it is also Eastern storytelling, not Western.
Yeah, I'm mostly focused on Western storytelling, but there would be some, I think, transferable things, but I don't know. I still have a lot to learn. My brain just died on me for a second. I'm not tired, but I did have a weird day. I went to the doctor. Nothing is wrong with me, but I've maxed out on my insurance for everything, on my deductible and everything this year. So I'm like, well, now it's time to see what work we can get done under the hood. And I've got all these little things that I want to do, but because I live in America and our healthcare system sucks ass, I've been unable to do. It's well, that mole I've got over there, let's check it out. And I've got this little cyst under my skin over here. Let's get that removed. There's some other stuff I'm going to get done that I won't discuss openly on this show because most people probably don't want to know about all that stuff, and you probably don't either. If we're being honest.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one.
I will keep the other stuff close to my chest, but I'm gonna get as much out of my insurance as I can this year because the rest of the time it fucks me. So this time I'm gonna fuck it.
And next year your deductible is going to go through the roof.
Nope, it is not, because it's a company health insurance group policy. So if it goes up for everybody, which I guess, I mean, I could drive it up for everybody, but I don't think that's how that negotiating thing works, the way they negotiate it. Medicare for all.
What, you want everybody to die on the death panels?
Yes.
And have 20-day waits in the waiting room?
Eat the rich. And the poor. Cannibalism. Anarchy. I know it's more complicated than just Medicare for all, but Medicare for all sounds better. Makes me think of this sketch that Door Monster. They used to be called White Lightning HQ. Now they're called Door Monster. They did the really cool Kerbal Space Program shorts or skits a few years ago, but they've got one like running joke for all of their Civ series videos that like there's always somebody in the background going like, "We want whales." He's got like a sign. Made me think of that. Medicare for all. We want whales. Anyways, this has been a rather long tangent. Would you like to discuss games, Rage?
Sure, but unfortunately we're going to be talking about Pokémon Masters, so I'm not sure if that's going to be a game.
Well, I didn't know that this existed until you mentioned it, and then basically said it wasn't very good, so I'm excited to hear about it.
Okay, well, first strike against it mobile game. It popped up on my phone for a pre-register like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I thought, this is either going to be really good or really shit. I'm in. And I have to be honest, leaning towards really shit because mobile game. So let's talk about what it does right. Okay, now let's move on to everything else.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say that because it does do an interesting thing with the battle system. But it also dumbs things down big time. So, the battle system in this isn't your traditional turn-based, punching on one another that pretty much every single other of the major Pokemon games has been. Instead, it's a 3v3 team battle where each trainer only has one Pokemon. And it's running off of a power system similar to Clash Royale, the tug-of-war style games, where you slowly build up a power meter, and all the different moves are associated with a power rating. So really simple moves are 1 bar. I haven't seen anything that's above 2. But the stronger the move, the more energy it takes out of this bar that's constantly slowly regenerating. And there's some moves that regenerate the health power bar a little bit. And it's interesting, but they've stripped the game down so much that it makes it boring. So, Pokemon, I think it's fair to say, is a giant game of rock, paper, scissors. When it comes down to types. This, they've stripped it down to, there's direct counters between, like, a rock type is weak only to grass type. Never mind all the other types that it's always been weak to. Nope, not this time around. It's only grass type. Grass type is only weak to fire type. Water type is only weak to grass type. And they've really simplified it to the point that it, is just boring. On top of adding a lot of really, really, really long cutscenes. So, I would call this almost a visual novel, where there's long sections where you're just sitting there and reading why this trainer wants to go be the very best, or whatever struggles they're going through, or how they're going to catch this particular Pokemon or whatever. And maybe it's just because I'm not invested in the universe. The last time I really played a Pokemon game was Generation 2. But it's just, get on with it. And it's just, it's hard to really say into words just how utterly boring it is to go through several minutes of cutscenes just to have one battle, then to go through several minutes of cutscenes. When the battles have been streamlined to such a point that, they're just, they're trivial, really. Oh, something else about the battle system that I failed to mention is that there's essentially a limit break in this game, which is weird. So all the moves, like I said, are powered by this regenerating power bar, and it's not turn-based, so it's a constant, constantly advancing time frame. So all the characters could throw off attacks at the same time. And queue up attacks, and also freely target the other 3 Pokemon. So, if you want to try to just, gangbang, that Charmander, go ahead, right?
Woo!
But there's a constant count on the number of moves that you do. And once you hit whatever amount it is, which it seems to be a little bit varying between maybe trainers, maybe just a luck of the draw. It didn't really say why it was so different at different times, and I never really could figure it out. You essentially unlock a limit break. That's a completely free move on one of your Pokemon, and depending on the Pokemon that's using it, it may be a AOE, it may be a direct damage, one shot. Or not one shot, but a massive amount of damage on one particular target. Or it may do some other effects, and there may be secondary effects tied to it. So, I mean, there is some interesting things, but it's just, it feels so shallow that it really robbed any of the innovation for me. And that's before you even get to the business model here. So, the business model. Every trainer only has one Pokemon, which is weird to begin with, right?
Yeah.
They're called sync pairs. And depending on the character, you'll get different Pokemon. So, and they pull from pretty much the entire universe. So, you start off with Misty and Brock, alright?
Okay.
And Misty has a Starmie, and Brock has an Onix.
Makes sense. That's their iconic Pokemon.
Yeah,
Pokemans.
Yeah, then you eventually get to the gacha portion of this, where you're given one free roll to show you how it works, right? Which I'm not sure if it's random on that one or not. But I started to get trainers that I've never heard of, so. But, since I've only played to Generation 2, that's not surprising. But there's no free pulls. The only way that you can earn pulls is slowly grind up the premium currency that they trickle into you. But the cynical part of me is just sitting there thinking, well, this is eventually going to dry up because a lot of this is coming from the quests and from login bonuses and everything. And it can only go for so long before, it dries up to the point where I'm not getting enough to get the gacha pulls, right? That hook, right?
Right.
And it counts free and paid premium currency as 2 different currencies. So every day you have a cheap pull that's 100 gems, and then you have the regular pull that's 300. And then you have the massive pull that's 10 pulls for 3,000. But I mean, they're not giving me any discount, because of course they're not, but you're not having to sit through the damn animation over and over again. You could only get the full price single pulls with the free currency. Otherwise, you have to buy it. Even though it's the same damn currency. It counts it as 2 separate currencies, and I've never seen that. And that's really shitty.
Didn't Pokemon Go have the 2 separate currency thing?
I didn't play Pokemon Go enough to find out. But this is this is the same currency, the same gem currency. Only they're using 2 different counters if it's obtained like through quests or through login bonuses and whatnot. Or if you're actually buying it, it's counted as 2 different currencies, but it's 1 tracker, which is just so weird.
That is strange. That is different, because I think Pokemon Go had 2 currencies, like the premium one and then the non-premium one. Although I barely played Pokemon Go.
Yeah, there wasn't enough stuff near me to really deal with Pokemon Go. But let's see what else. There's also little side stories that as you unlock new sync pairs, you essentially go watch a cutscene of them talking about whatever, and you get a few gems out of it. And you do slowly start amassing a team just by going through the story, but they tend to try to push you into different team configurations. But if you don't have enough or enough of the different sync pairs, enough of the different Pokemons or Pokemans, you're going to be a little bit in trouble later on whenever it's there's not the nuance, not the strategy that you could really deal with. You just have to throw stronger and stronger things at it. Which I realize, Pokemon has never been a terribly deep game. Yes, there is some strategy to it, but at the end of the day, it is still rock, paper, scissors, at least as far as I know. So having this tied to a paid pull mechanic is just, it feels scummy. I will give them credit on one thing, that whenever you go through the rather long list of NDAs and, well, not NDAs, but EULAs and making sure that you understand everything, they do have it where you can set up to have it say, okay, well, if you have more than this many gems bought in a specific amount of time, we'll send a warning email. So that is a nice thing to set up for parents, but it shouldn't be there in the first place.
I like when you get angry. It's a big turn on.
Do you need a moment?
Nah, I'm good.
It's just really disappointing overall. I mean, I set my expectations low on this. But having them just, constantly saying, hey, you can get more sync pairs if you buy, just, it feels exploitative. And I know that I'll eventually hit a point where, if I didn't spend the money, it's just going to be grinding. And I think it says something that, at least at the time of recording, the review score for this on Google Play is 3.6. I mean, that's quite low for a Pokemon game, huh?
That's really bad for a Pokemon game. I feel like being a Pokemon would get it at least a 4 or 4.5 stars.
I mean, it's pretty much always been just, 1 star or 5 star. I mean, they may as well switch to a thumbs up, thumbs down rating system on Google Play at least.
Yeah.
But the fact that they have, can I see how many 1 stars they have on this? Not easily.
On the Google Play Store?
Yeah. I mean, they have a good chunk of 1 star and 2 star reviews, which is telling. I will say that graphically, it is very pretty. It has a nice art style to it, especially whenever you're using some of the, for lack of a better term, limit breaks. They went through a lot of trouble to animate those really well. Unfortunately, they seem to forget, gameplay and, being fair to your customers and not pissing me off.
Right.
And it's a shame that they stripped down the battle system so much, because if they had it where multiple weaknesses still existed, it would be an interesting, almost Clash Royale-esque system where trying to figure out who to attack first and who to try to subdue. But because it's just the one weakness, it just feels so, well, weak sauce.
I like that you just said weak sauce.
Any questions? You said that you had questions.
Well, I had a couple, but you kind of answered them when you were talking about it, which is why, I waited in the pre-show. Because I was going to ask, like, well, how does the 3v3 battle system work? That seems weird. But then you explained that. And then I was going to ask about the currency, but then you explained that. So I don't think I have any other questions. The thing that sounds the worst to me is that they simplified it down to, one type is strong against one type, instead of having multi-type Pokemon or having...
yeah, I'm not sure how they actually
reducing that
the
complexity.
But it seemed like... no, I think I got a couple that looked multi-type that were just simplified down to, like, flying or rock type. So, they lost a lot of complexity. Something that is interesting, though, is that they also took out items. Instead, they're attached to the different trainers. So if you look on the screenshots, you can see, like, on one of these, it has the Pikachu, Onix, and Starmie fighting whatever the hell those are. And you can see a potion on there, 2 of 2. On each chapter of the story, because remember I told you that it works out like a visual novel. Each chapter, you have that many uses of that ability if it has a counter on it. Then it's gone. And it refreshes in between chapters. Which is also a very strange move. There's no items whatsoever. They keep forcing you to go through the shop to level up different trainers if you get the items to be able to level them. To learn different abilities, you have to go through the shop and spend particular items, and also as you run through the story, you'll eventually build up a stockpile that you're able to exchange. It's all running you through these shops, and after watching that one video, it's like, oh... I could see it now, right?
Yeah. Sounds like a bunch of weird choices. I don't know how much of that is just like pure mobile shenanigans, or Nintendo and the Pokemon Company being like, let's do weird stuff, because that's what we do, is weird stuff.
Well, this isn't even made by the Pokemon Company. This is Dana Limited. They did the Attack on Titan Tactics game.
Oh, I didn't catch that. So I guess they licensed it. To them.
Yeah. So
then that seems like more like mobile shenanigans to me.
Yeah, the Attack on Titans game. It looks like a pretty standard Clash Royale-esque game, tug of war style game. Only with giant naked people.
Yay for giant naked people. But, okie dokie. Well, do you want me to talk about a shitty mobile game? I arranged my list.
You can. I will say that even though you are stuck with a Pikachu, you are able to switch your own character out of the team, so you're not constantly gimped by that. So, that is one thing.
Oh no, I'm stuck with a Pikachu. My favoriteest Pokemon ever. I know, that's probably the stereotypical answer, but I always loved Pikachu the most, as a kid.
No, you cannot fuck Pikachu.
Somewhere around here, I've still got like a giant plush Pikachu backpack thing. I think I've got in one of our closets, I've got like a storage box full of things like that I keep meaning to decorate with or take to my office at work, and I never do either. But I loved Pikachu. He was my favorite. He was so cute. And fluffy. Anyways. Yeah. So, on to my games. I rearranged them just so I could talk about my mobile game after you. So this weekend, the power went out. There was a scheduled power outage that I didn't know about.
Oh, it's a surprise outage.
A surprise scheduled outage. I found out after the fact that it was scheduled. I just thought something happened and my power went out, which is not an unusual occurrence, unfortunately. But I had just drank like a huge cup of coffee. I was ready to game, stay up late and game, and like 30 minutes in, just power down. But I'm like, well, I've drank too much coffee to go to sleep. So I started playing mobile games on my phone, and I've got a couple, but this one was the only one I was ready to talk about. And it's called Life is a Game. I honestly don't remember where I heard about this from, but I know I heard it from somewhere, like another gaming podcast I listened to.
And now I'm just thinking of the anime, No Game, No Life.
But this is a really... It's a side-scrolling, like, auto-runner game, which is not at all what I thought it was when I, like, first looked at it. And maybe it says in here that that's what it is. But you start out as a little baby, and you run to the right across the screen. And basically, you just, like, do things. So you jump into things, like, you know, little coin symbols that represent different stuff. There's, like, a coin for money, and when you're... like at different stages of life, there's different things. So as it like a baby and a young child, there's like things you can jump into that represent happiness versus sadness. And you can choose to interact with your parents as a baby, and they'll like carry you around on their back. And that gives you the opportunity to get more happiness as a child so that you do better in high school. And then when you're in high school, there's 4 different hobbies you can choose from, although 2 of them are music. So I don't know why they're separated. One is like a saxophone and the other is a guitar. And then you can be an artist or into sports. And then that gives you a hobby that you can practice. And as you go through high school, you have to interact with friends. And when I say interact, there's just like a button you tap on screen that says interact.
Your type of interaction.
As you walk past things. And then you get a random response, and then sometimes, like, if something good happens, it'll like flash above the screen at the top, made a friend, or, you know, so and so thinks you're dumb. And so you go through high school and you collect all of these different things, and based on what you collect, like if you get enough of one specific thing or enough of a combination, then it will choose your career that you go through as an adult. So the ones that I were able to get, like if you don't get enough of anything, you just become like a generic office worker. And then if you
a salary
get enough,
man. Basically, if Saitama never found the monster.
Indeed. But then if you're if you collect enough of the sports ones, or like soccer ball tokens, then you become a soccer player. And if you collect enough of the music ones, you can become a singer or a musician. If you collect enough of their book tokens, so like knowledge, you become a college professor. Apparently you can become like a doctor and a police officer and a firefighter and a construction worker. Like there's a bunch of different things, but then that sets up what your career is, and then based on how many levels of your career that you collected in high school. So like there's a little a meter that goes up at the bottom of the screen for each of these things, and like if you fill up 1 meter, then you become that one, and if you fill it up a second time, you're more likely to do better at your job. But so then you have like a young adult phase where you're going through your job and there's people you can interact with, and then you collect more tokens, you collect money, and then there's like bonus things that you can choose to interact with, which might give you more money, or you might get a promotion, for example, if you're the office worker, so the money tokens are worth more money. But as you collect money, your happiness meter goes down, because it's like you're working real hard, you're not taking time for yourself. So then you have to collect food to help you feel better, which raises your happiness meter, or you can smoke cigarettes, which makes your happiness meter go way up. But if you get 7 cigarettes, you die, and if you get too many food tokens without getting enough exercise tokens, then you get fat. And so you go through young adult stage, and you've collected money, and then you go through like a flower shop where you can buy some flowers. You can get expensive flowers or cheap flowers, and then you go to a car dealership where you can buy either you can not buy a car, and then your character takes a bus, or you can buy a car, and then he drives out with a car. And like the better the car you get, the happier you are. And then it like drops you off at a curb, and there's a bunch of women, and you offer them flowers, and there's a based on what type of flowers you get and what your career choice was and how much money you have, women will marry you or not. And you can propose up to 3 times as you walk through like all of the women on the sidewalk. And if you get married, then there's a family, like it goes on to a family thing. And if you don't get married, then it's like an empty house, and then it skips to like late stage career. If you've got married, you can choose to either be the career person, or you can be like a stay-at-home house keeper, I think is what it calls them, housekeeper. That's like Mr. Mom. By the way, you can only be a man in this game. Can't be a woman. You can only be a man. So you can be like Mr. Mom, housekeeper, and then your spouse can go to work, which might be a good option if you got like did really shitty on the money part for the first career, like from a pure gameplay perspective. And then you go through that, and you may or may not have children. I'm not quite sure how that works. It seemed to be completely random. And then you go to late stage career, which is more of the first career, except your character's older and wears different clothes. And then you get to able to buy a house, and if you can't afford a house, then you're like end game as you're an old person is like a really shitty broken down apartment. And then you can buy like a normal house and you wear normal clothes, or you can buy like a fancy house and then you look like Mr. Moneybags from the Monopoly game, walking through your house with a top hat. And then you die, and it tells you like some basic stuff like you were a good friend, or you lived your life alone, or you were a distant husband. Like it, gives you some things, and then it like rewinds back all the way to the beginning where it's the baby stage. And as you go along, like you see all these interactions that you made, and based on the final statements that you got, it's something sad. It's always something sad. Even like when I figured out how to kind of game the system and get like the happiest life and the most money, he was very sad about everything that happened. So along the way, like I mentioned the hobby at the beginning, and then the friends that you could make, and then your spouse, there's these little buttons, these little icons on the bottom left of the screen that light up if you choose a hobby, and if you make friends, and if you get married. And they're on like a timer, and so you can tap one of them, and it's like, you practiced your hobby, or you hung out with your friends, or you called your wife and hung out with your children. And so doing those like gives you a boost in happiness. And if you do them enough, they will turn from blue to green. And if they're green, that means that you get like a thumbs up at the end of the game that you were a good dad or a good friend or whatever. And if they stay blue, it was like, he was okay. And if you don't use them at all, they gray out. And then it's like, he was a terrible friend who never hung out with anyone. But they don't really seem to make a difference at all, except that they give you more happiness. And it doesn't really seem to matter if you focus on one or spread it out evenly between the 3. So it was a really stupid, bullshit, boring game, but the power was out, and I have really terrible cell service at my house. So with the power out, the Wi-Fi was down, which meant that I couldn't play other mobile games. So, I mean, this is a purely single-player experience. It's got a store. It gives you a whole bunch of premium currency up front, because you like complete your first few playthroughs, you complete a whole bunch of achievements, and you get like 100 or 150 of the premium currency, which are just like fancy looking gold coins. And you can buy a few things with it, but everything that's in the premium shop is cosmetics that don't do anything, or packs that like increase your chances of getting a certain career. So
pay to cheat.
Yeah, pay to cheat. And I don't think that you have to have any of the packs to get the careers, because I got College Professor and I didn't have the pack that said College Professor. Like I picked a couple of them just because it gave me like 100 coins of premium currency. But yeah, I got the College Professor and I didn't buy that pack. So it's, I don't know. It was a way to kill like an hour until the caffeine high wore off enough for me to go to sleep. So, it's not a very good game. I don't think you should play it. I played it so you don't have to.
Sort of like me with Pokémon Masters?
Pretty much. So now let's move on to a good game I played this week, which was Offworld Trading Company, the single player. So last week I mentioned, if you recall, dear listener, that we played Offworld Trading Company for community game night, and I went into it completely blind, and we only played the multiplayer. So now I have played it quite a bit. Let's see, according to this, I played it about 12 additional hours from the multiplayer, just doing some quick basic math in my head. About 12 more hours since community game night. The single-player campaign is really interesting. I don't have the expansions, so I don't know if it's different for... I believe it's like the Moons of Jupiter or something like that. I don't know if it's any different or what that adds. But there's 4 main factions that you can play that each have 2 different sort of, I don't know, leaders or whatever that have different starting bonuses and structures and abilities. Abilities isn't quite the right word, but like sort of a power that they can use. And you only have 1 to start, and then as soon as you win any of the career playthroughs, you unlock the next person. I thought you had to win all 3, but you only have to win 1, and then you get the second person that you can play. So there's also, I think, a 5th faction, which I assume you have to unlock all of them to get, but I know I played this faction in the multiplayer, and it was my favorite faction that I played then. But the career mode takes you on either a 4, 7, or 10-week journey to become the most profitable, biggest, bestest company on Mars. The storyline is pretty standard. Something's wrong with Earth. We need resources, so let's go to Mars and get them their resources. Get those space potatoes. And like I said, you go for 4, 7, or 10 weeks, and what it does is it gives you sort of a strategic map, and you can pick from several different sort of colony plots, and you compete head-to-head against the AI and try to build up the colony the most. So the general gameplay is the same as it is in the multiplayer. You have to maximize your profits, minimize the amount of debt that you take on. But in the multiplayer game, you're just trying to buy out all of the other companies and become the only one. In the single-player campaign, there's a larger strategic element to it. So first of all, the different plots, you can get specific bonuses from having sort of connected plots of land. You get overall cash bonuses for those. There are different countries which sponsor the different plots. I mean, they're all real-world countries. The United States, China, the EU, Russia, I think. There might be one other one. And they each give you a bonus for the land that you have. So it might be starting bonus cash, or you start with an extra plot of land where you can place down a factory or something like that. And then if you win on the map, you'll get an additional bonus. Usually it's some of the abilities that you can get from the black market, like sabotage or using a nuclear warhead. Occasionally they'll give you other things like a patent, which are the equivalent of like research that give you specific bonuses. And the patents can change things massively depending on what faction you play as. For example, there's a patent that lets you run things on water instead of fuel, or run buildings on water instead of using power, and that might be beneficial to one faction or another based on your play style. There's one that uses teleportation, which means that you have no fuel cost to transport resources, which means you can basically build anywhere on the map for no penalty instead of trying to keep your base kind of together. So strategic placement isn't as much of an issue. But anyways, there's those types of things. And then there's this entire system where you have to build up these employees that give you bonuses. So you can't just build all the buildings. You have to have an engineer for specific buildings. You have to have one engineer to unlock the building, but then that makes that building type work at 50%. So you have to have like a solar farm engineer to even build a farm to grow food. But they only operate at 50% with one engineer. So you get 2 engineers, then they operate at 100% capacity, and then each engineer beyond that is a 50% production bonus. So your faction starts with a certain amount of those engineers for specific buildings, and it tends to play to their strengths. So, for example, if a faction uses the material glass as one of the building components. You'll probably have 2, maybe even 3 engineers for glass. But if they don't use chemicals, then you won't have any engineers for that. But as you go, you can either hire engineers for one mission, or contract them for one mission, or hire them permanently. And so things that are like base resources are relatively inexpensive, maybe like 200,000 to hire like a farm engineer, but 500,000 to hire a chemical engineer. And then for the really cool stuff like the research laboratory or the Offworld launch pad, those are 1.5 million to hire those guys permanently. And then cheaper to just contract them for one mission. So, and those things can be huge game changers as well. Launching resources off world, typically things that aren't as valuable, like food and water on Mars. Like, that sounds weird, but with all those companies operating there, those things are usually much cheaper in the local market, sell for a ton of money off world. And it says like, ship your resources off to the asteroid belt. So food, oxygen, and water, very valuable off world. Those can be huge boons for your economy, being able to sell things off world and really come to play in the late game. But you go through this for however many weeks your campaign lasts. And the goal is to make it to the end by building up the colonies the most. During each mission, you not only have to manage all of your stuff for your own base, but you also have to buy colony modules, things like habitats or warehouses, factory complexes, things like that. And it's just like a straight up cost you pay for, and they're built by the colony automatically. And then you're awarded a percentage of the contract based on how much of a percentage of things you provide. So winning, having the most things, is what gives you the bonuses for the territories. But even if you don't win, you still want to place down as many of these things as possible, because then you get more money each week going into the strategic planning phase where you can contract or hire more engineers and employees. So it's definitely worth it to try your best on every one. Like, you should never throw one away. Even if you know you're not going to win, you should get as much as you can, because it helps you long term. But that's the goal throughout. And if at any point in time your stock price, which is calculated at the end of every week, is in last place, you're eliminated. Otherwise, you make it till the end, and the final round is just like the multiplayer game. The goal being to buy out all of the other companies, be the last company standing. And that happens drastically differently compared to the multiplayer. Like, the objective is the same, but that final game takes a lot longer, because by the time you've gotten there, after any amount of time, the stock prices are much, much higher than they are in the multiplayer game. So it was taking me like $3, $4, $5 million to buy out a company, as opposed to when I played in multiplayer, it was just like a few $100,000 to buy them out when that one game that I won. So the scale is different. The idea is the same, but the scale is different. That was extremely tense. The one that I played, the faction that I've got the most experience with, is the robotic faction. They're probably, like, if you've never played this game before, I would suggest them to start with. Because since they're robots, the only resource they have to worry about is power. They don't need food, they don't need water, they don't need fuel. Everything operates off of electricity. And they get wind turbines as their like starting power generation, which work 24/7. Solar panels only work during the daytime. And then geothermal power only works if you're able to snag a geothermal vent. And not all maps have those. And even on the maps that do, it might not be strategically a good idea to place your base down next to one. And then if you don't, then there could be other costs associated with. There's no fuel cost associated with power, actually, now that I think of it, so it's probably not an issue. But anyways, the only thing that the robots have to worry about is power. So that eliminates the amount of resources that you have to manage, and makes it a lot simpler to play through. So if you've never played it before, I'd suggest giving them a shot first. But I mean, honestly, it was pretty easy to sort of learn and adapt. I suppose it's easy if you've got a mind for this sort of game, to adapt to the different needs of each of the different factions. But I've played a ton. I've only managed to win one campaign. I'm on my way to victory in a second campaign, but I've lost more than I've won. And unless you turn Iron Man mode on, you can restart at any point in time. Like, you can restart your mission, and when you click restart, it takes you all the way back to the strategic screen in case you want to make changes to who you contracted or hired for the that week's mission. But otherwise, I mean, you can restart as many times as you need to if you really, really, really want to go for a win. But I'm trying to think if I missed anything. There is some stuff that I can see, but I can't access because it's part of the DLC. Like, there's something called like the Infinite Challenge, and then there's weekly challenge maps that you can play, and it's got like a high scoring system. But otherwise, I mean, if there's anything that I'm missing, I just haven't gotten to it yet. It's a really good game though. I like it a lot. The single player stuff takes 20-25 minutes, just like the multiplayer does per game. Timer. Everything except for the final week is timed. It's 7 in-game days, but you can speed up or slow down time as you need to, and you could pause at any point in time to maybe like place down a bunch of buildings at once or something like that, and then have them all build. But I mean, that 7 days takes about 25 minutes or so to play through, so you can still play it relatively quickly for short bursts. It's a really good game. It's a really good game. I enjoy the heck out of it. And probably next Steam sale, I'm going to get the DLC so I can check out all of the rest of that stuff. I'm hoping the infinite play is just like a sandbox map or something like that. I would actually enjoy this in sandbox mode, like maximizing things. But good game. And then my final game is called Aircraft Evolution. I got this as a keymailer game a little while back, and I've been trying to make a concerted effort to play a few more of these keymailer games that I get. And this weekend was a good time to play a few. I've actually played more games than is on my list, but I'm saving some of them because I either need more time or want to spread them out a little bit. But Aircraft Evolution, I think it has been spiritually sort of inspired by Time Pilot, the old arcade game. It's got some similarities. You're piloting aircraft from various eras, starting all the way in World War I, and then it goes to like a futuristic setting with like UFOs and shit. So aliens, ? But it's a side-scrolling 2D game, and you can move left and right across the battlefield, and you're dropping bombs on various buildings and enemies, and then you are shooting either guns or missiles at other aircraft, dirigibles, or also at aforementioned buildings and enemies. I have gotten to the World War II era of planes. I'm like 3 or 4 missions into that. There's 10 missions per era, with the final mission having a big boss battle against like an over-the-top, almost like shmup boss, shoot 'em up. The one for World War I was like a massive tank with like 20 guns on top of it and rockets and stuff. But the missions are divided up into various types of kill the thing. Sometimes you have to kill all the things. Sometimes you only have to kill the things that are buildings. Sometimes you only have to kill all of the things that are enemy troops or airplanes. There has been one mission I've played so far that was like a time trial, and you had to get all the way across from one side of the screen to the other, and it was filled with like air mines, and you had to avoid those. You couldn't actually shoot them. I don't know how many of those there are. I've only found the one. But there's a bunch of different aircraft that you can purchase as you level up in the game. You can purchase them and you can upgrade them. Things like armor, speed, fuel, efficiency, weapon damage. And then there's a bunch of different special weapons. You have basically, at least at this point where I'm in the game, every plane has got a machine gun of some kind, and then standard bombs. And then you can buy other bombs. There's cluster bombs, napalm, something that's like, I don't know, a giant blue mini nuke explosion. I got like a couple of those sort of randomly, so I have no idea exactly what they are. It doesn't look like I can purchase them yet. There's like an armor-piercing bomb that's good against tanks. and then another bomb that I haven't gotten at all yet, so I don't know what it's for. But the different ammo or different bombs are more or less effective against different things. There's also rockets and missiles, which I don't have access to yet, but I've seen them. And then certain planes have special machine guns or special cannons. There's one that has a shotgun type cannon that's really good for really good for fighting other aircraft in the air. There's one that's got like a really rapid fire machine gun that's good for strafing the ground. There was one plane that had a rear gunner, so that was good for dogfighting. It's a decent enough little game. I played it for a little over an hour and enjoyed my time with it. I'm probably going to play it some more. I don't like playing it with keyboard and mouse. The way that it's hard to explain, but the way the aircraft follows the mouse cursor sometimes gets you in trouble because you can't predict whether or not it's going to go maybe up or down or turn over or do a loop, especially when you get to the edge of the screen kind of abruptly. And so there's been a few times where that the plane has like flipped out and crashed into something and blown up. And I'm like, well, that's not what I was trying to do. And then it took me the longest time to not press spacebar to drop bombs. I don't know why. That was in my head. Like it tells you at the beginning, 1 mouse click for guns, 1 mouse click for bombs. And I kept pressing spacebar to drop bombs. And spacebar is how you speed boost. So I think that's just something wrong with my brain, not anything wrong with the game. I got this weird like mobile vibes off of it, but it's, as far as I know, it's not on any mobile devices. I think that's just the way that it looks. The art style ? But it's a fun little game. It's like $8 on Steam. I don't think it's worth $8. I got it for free. It definitely is good at free, but maybe on sale for 99 cents, $2.
Wow, that low.
I think it's good enough for like an hour or two of enjoyment, but there's no story here. There's no replayability factor that I have discovered since I have been playing it. Like if it does one of those things where it's like later on in the game it turns into something completely different and it's like, I don't know, magical or whatever, then maybe. But the thing is it's like, well, I've had to sort of slog through it for however many hours to get to that, so it'd have to be pretty damn good to be worth it. It's worth a couple hours of enjoyment, and I guess if that's worthy of $5 or $7 for you, then by all means go ahead. But like, I think if you're interested in this game, definitely wait for it to be on sale for $1 or $2.
Damn, just the way the game kind of looks, I realize it's just 2D aircraft, even though it's a lot more modern. It reminded me a lot of Altitude.
Reminded you of what?
Of a game called Altitude.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's a 2D multiplayer game. Playing game.
Okay.
I just had that strong vibe, even though, gameplay-wise, they're very different.
It reminds me of a lot of Flash games that I used to see on Newgrounds. It's more complex than that, but it reminds me of that. So, as far as I can tell, like, it's not bad. It's a really small game. It ran just fine on my laptop. So, it's weird. Like, I can't really recommend it, but it's not bad. Like, if you pick it, if you get it really cheaply, if you're just looking for something to help pass the time, like, it's definitely, there for that. But I'm definitely not going to say, like, hey, you should totally go buy this for full price or whatever. There's no loot boxes. There's no microtransactions. That counts for something in this day and age, I guess.
Yeah, sadly. Right?
Yeah. But, that does it for the games that I played this week.
Yeah, and obviously I just had one. I don't really have any questions about it because, I think you covered it fairly well.
It's fairly simple, too. There's honestly not a lot to cover. Alrighty, then. Well, with that out of the way, let us move on to the news. Our first news topic of the night, NBA 2K20 focuses on gambling in its trailer. Speaking of those loot boxes and microtransactions and bullshit.
Yeah, really. Did you actually watch the trailer?
I did watch the trailer.
Holy shit, right?
Yeah. If you haven't watched the trailer, dear listener, please go watch the trailer. They're literal full of slot machines and like a gacha machine thing and something that looks kind of like roulette. It's just like a lucky spinning wheel thingy, but I thought a roulette with it.
The Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, yeah, Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, that's literally what it's called in the casino.
I didn't know that. Even though I've been to a couple of casinos, I've never played one of those. I always go play blackjack and then slot machines whenever I'm at a casino. I'll play the slot machines very cheaply and then just get drinks.
Just get enough so they start comping you?
Yeah.
And then off to the buffet.
Hell yeah. I love me a good casino buffet. They're always really good. At least, I mean, I've not been to like tons of them, but every time I've been to one, they're very good. Anyways.
Yeah, it's just... remember how I was feeling a little optimistic last week about maybe loot boxes are going away or, maybe, signs are changing? Well, then this happens, right?
Well, I mean, in a sense, loot boxes might be going away and times are changing, but it's just they're getting worse instead of better.
Yeah, I mean, it just... I saw this trailer, and I thought it was, someone making fun of it, and, it was a fake trailer,
Yeah.
Because there's a lack of self-awareness here that was just astounding.
It's really over the top. Like, I could see it being genuinely like a comedy sketch on Saturday Night Live or something like that. Like, I could believe that. If someone was like, hey, check out this weird sketch that I saw on this comedy YouTube channel, I'd be like, oh, haha, that's really funny and weird. Interesting satire, but no, it's real. And there is a total lack of self-awareness. I don't know if it's really hard to tell. Like, do they just not give a fuck? Are they that oblivious or ignorant to the whole situation? Because, I mean, this is, practically on the heels of quite a bit of loot box controversy with governments getting involved. And with, last year, I think it was late last year, early this year, Belgium said that loot boxes were illegal. They constitute gambling, and any games released in Belgium can't have loot box mechanics in it. It was the UK who recently said that they were considering it, and they released some studies that showed that these mechanics were.
It wasn't gambling in the UK because you couldn't cash out.
Right, but that they did have studies that were showing like this is harmful to, the studies were focused on like children and teenagers, but these types of games are sold to children and teenagers, so it's like, oh, it's harmful, and we're considering all this stuff. It's PEGI, in one of the articles we have, PEGI is considering, at least they've said they're having an internal debate about how to handle this game.
Yeah, because originally it was rated PEGI 3.
Yeah. And they say, where's the article on Tech Raptor? Because I think that had the quote in it. Here we go. I'm just going to read this. This comes from the PEGI letter. Someone sent an email to PEGI and they responded. I guess, concerned citizen. It says, the trailer includes imagery that is generally known from casinos, Wheel of Fortune, slot machines. Using this sort of mechanic to select an item or character or action by chance is not the same as teaching how how to gamble for money in a casino. These differences currently prevent us from applying the gambling descriptor, but we are very aware that it may get too close to comfort for some people, and that is part of an internal discussion that PEGI is having at the moment. The games industry is evolving constantly and rapidly in recent years. As a rating organization, we need to ensure that these developments are reflected in our classification criteria. We do not base our decisions on the content of a single trailer, but we will properly assess how the rating system and the video game industry in general should address these concerns. So on the one hand, like, that could be like PR bullshit, but on the other hand, given how much stuff has been going on, I'm cautiously optimistic that they're taking this seriously.
Oh, you're still in my line now? You're still cautiously optimistic from me?
Well, I mean, I've used that before and also heard it before. I guess you did use it earlier, so you used it first. I'm trying to turn that into a thing without just saying fake news, but all that comes to mind is fake news, so fake news.
Yeah, watch out, or Alabama's going to get hit by the storm, right?
Yeah, those meteorologists are wrong.
Quick, double down, double down.
But
Which
yeah,
just gets
I'm
back to the
cautiously, yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic though that they're actually taking this seriously. I mean, we've been back and forth a bunch of times on this show. Not back and forth in terms of like our opinions change, but like we've talked about this, what feels like ad nauseum on this show, and it's a big discussion in the industry in general. And one thing that I've always said, or I think I've always said this, has been that, you know, it would be better if the industry could police itself, but it doesn't seem to be capable of doing that, which means that the government at this point, I think, needs to be involved because, I mean, like I said, the industry can't police themselves. There's too much greed by all of these big companies.
I mean, self-regulation
exploitation going on.
rarely works for the long term.
Yeah. So I think the games industry is at that tipping point. It's an old enough industry at this point. It's a fucking huge industry. I think it's time. It's just, that's what's coming. Maybe not in America, but in the civilized world, in the developed world, they're, I think, moving closer and closer towards regulation. I mean, you know, we've already seen it in Belgium. I suspect in the next couple of years, we'll see it in most of the EU. Maybe within 5 years, there will be some EU-wide. I'm not 100% sure how law works, but something in the governing body that covers the entire EU about this sort of thing. And then I guess we'll see where the UK winds up on their EU status. But regardless, I don't think that they'll be too far behind, even if they do wind up with a Brexit, which there's been recent news about that we talked about in the pre-show.
Yeah.
Again. What was it you said? Hold my tea?
Hold my Earl Grey.
Instead of saying hold my beer. Hold my beer and watch this.
Yeah, just talking about the stupidity in politics.
Indeed.
But just the like-to-dislike ratio on this trailer is astounding. I think it's more telling that 3,600 people actually liked this trailer.
Well, they're
wrong.
They are wrong. But last year, 2K was asking people to petition the Belgian government to not ban loot boxes. I'm just waiting for that to happen here, too. For them to be like, oh, you should tell people that you love being exploited by us. Some people would probably do it.
Of course. I mean, the sports fan or the sports game fan, they're kind of a captive audience because if you're a fan of NBA basketball, you know, there's not a lot of places for you to go. So, you know, it's either just grin and bear it or, you know, find another sport that you want to play. I mean, the NFL has an exclusivity deal with EA. If you want a soccer game, FIFA's the big one still. And they just hammer it home. It's absolutely ridiculous that that sports game fans have to deal with this.
So it looks like there's an EA and a 2K NBA game.
Yeah, which
I don't know shit about sports games.
Which isn't the 2K one really bad?
I don't know.
Let's see. Let me make sure that, you know. I mean, wait, this is the 2K one, sorry. EA is the other one.
Yeah.
I got them backwards just because I don't follow sports games all that much. But it's this makes mobile games look downright clean, doesn't it?
Yeah. Looks like you're right. EA is the only person that makes an NFL game.
Yeah, they have the exclusivity deal for ages.
Aren't there multiple people who make baseball games?
Yeah. But most of them are on console. Yeah, NBA Live is the EA one.
MLB, RBI. I don't know who makes those.
Yeah, let's just put it this way. Last year's NBA Live from EA, it's rated at 7.9 out of 10 on IGN. So, yeah, practically cancer.
Yeah. definitely cancer and will give you cancer.
And, well, 2K, like I said, it gets tainted and refused just because of its loot box shenanigans. Because last year, that's right, last year they had all the monetization on the character creation, and there was a lot of stuff that was essentially one-time use. And, like, for haircuts, if you unlocked a haircut and then you changed from it, you lost access to that haircut.
Oh, that's no bueno.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That was either last year or year before. But that was 2K.
Just looking at all of the major sports that I know of. So soccer or football has got a few that make it. It looks like EA is the biggest with FIFA, but there are several other soccer games that are developed. So I'm out of major sports. I mean, I know of more sports than just baseball, basketball, American football, and football. But those are the ones, I guess, that are most major. Golf? Golf.
Are there any modern golf games that are being put out by the AAA industry?
Oh. I'm looking that up now.
I mean, the only thing I can think of racing-wise is the F1 series from Codemaster.
You mean like Formula 1 type racing?
I think there's a NASCAR series still being made.
No idea. Probably.
I mean, I realize, NASCAR is definitely an American sport. But, yeah, it's an EA license. That's why I don't see it that often. NASCAR Heat 4 actually releases in about a week.
Some company called HB Studios has been making golf games. Like big golf titles. they're a Canadian company. Go Canada! I don't know anything about you guys, but go Canada.
Yeah, the Tiger Woods games.
2K makes them. Oh, fuck you, 2K. They bought them out. And this year they bought them out.
Yeah, I was going to say, the Tiger Woods games really ended when that big scandal about his shenanigans off the greens really broke, huh?
Yeah, when was the last one of those made?
Mid-2000s?
I liked the Tiger Woods games. 2013 was the last Tiger Woods game. In 2015, it changed to Rory McIlroy.
Who?
And then that was the last one that was made. Yeah. Who? Rory McIlroy. No idea who that is. Well, apparently, he couldn't carry the franchise like Tiger Woods could.
Obviously, right?
Yeah. Tiger Woods is a very handsome man.
I mean, you were looking at the golf club, weren't you? For that got bought out by 2K.
Yeah.
Yeah. The latest one actually is rated pretty poorly. The first one that they made was supposedly pretty good, but they never put it on sale, so it was just always obscenely expensive. And I don't like golf that much,
Yeah. My favorite golf game was Mario Golf, honestly.
I played Mario Golf on the Game Boy.
I played the one on Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been more than one, but I played one on Game Boy Color, and then I got it for N64, and you could, if you had like the little thing that plugged into the bottom of your N64 controller, where you could plug Game Boy games in, you could transfer your character from the Nintendo or from the Game Boy version to the N64 version, and then you could play with the same character. I did that for Mario Golf and Mario Tennis.
Yeah, I like the Mario Golf just because it was more of an RPG.
Yeah, I did too. You built up your stats. Man, now I want to play Mario Golf and Mario Tennis.
My favorite golf game was Sid Meier's Sim Golf.
I have never played that.
It is a golf course management game.
Oh, interesting.
Where you're building a country club, essentially, but you're also able to go out and play the holes.
Man, I want to get a golf game and play some golf. I know that there's Winning Putt, if that still exists. That's a free game, but we discovered pretty quick that
if you were able to time it, it was horribly unbalanced.
Yeah. Golf. What golf games are on Steam? This is a much better rabbit trail than fucking 2K.
Yeah, because
golf with your friends, that's not real golf. Tea time golf?
Let's see. The Bleacher Report. The best 10 golf games ever. Hey,
I also really like Hot Shots Golf on PlayStation.
Sid Meier's Sim Golf is actually number 4 on this list.
Fancy.
Looks like it's Tiger Woods and Lynx.
Jack Nicklaus Perfect Golf. When did this come out? 2016. I'll put that on my wish list. Get some golf games up in here.
But Sid Meier's Sim Golf is all over abandonware sites. Am I sensing potential game club? Should I add that to the potential list?
Yeah, why not? Hey, apparently the Golf Club 2 was on my wish list already. That's a surprise. Me discovering something on my wish list. Almost as big a surprise as me discovering I actually own something already.
That's something we should do more of for Game Club, is just abandonware games.
I've had a couple on our list, although they were both MechWarrior related. But we could do that.
You want something else we could do?
Move on to our next news
topic?
topic?
Get back on topic.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we have anything else to say about this because we got so far out in the weeds.
It's just 2K being 2K, really. And it's really sad that, especially sports games, are being so exploitative these days that they're not even hiding it. That's the thing, there's not even the, this is like a slot machine. This is like a casino. It is a casino.
Yeah, it's literally slot
If it was
machines.
any more casino-like, it'd be a GTA Online update.
Burn. Sick burn, dude.
So, moving on to Telltale Games Returns. Sort of. So, somebody's dug around the graveyard and found the grave of Telltale Games and has started digging and digging and digging and trying to reanimate that corpse. And this isn't as great as it sounds. Now, there's been not a lot of love lost for Telltale once, a lot of the story behind what happened came out. But in the last, several days, there's been a lot of people saying, oh yeah, this is great. Telltale's back. Yeah. But not really. I mean, this is just an investor group buying the licensing rights to the name and trying to get some of the IPs that they still hold on to. So, this isn't exactly a or resurrection, it is a reanimation.
Yeah, so specifically on the rights, they don't have the rights to The Walking Dead. Another company bought that. And then Stranger Things went back to Netflix after Telltale cratered.
Well, did they ever solidly have Stranger Things?
They had a game that was in development. I don't know how far along it was in development, but they had the license and they were developing a game. But when the company cratered, the license went back, and any development progress that was done is not usable. That's not to say that they can't possibly get a Stranger Things license back and then put that project back in development, but currently they can't work on it. I think everything else... No. There's a few things that they do definitely have, which is The Wolf Among Us. They've still got the license for that. And Batman...
Yeah, which Batman, and then, that's the license I wouldn't have expected.
Yeah, and then anything that was a Telltale original, they have the licenses for that. And then it's up in the air what's going to happen with their licenses for Borderlands, Game of Thrones, and Minecraft. So, don't know what's going to happen with that. Seems like the initial plan is to spend a little bit of time trying to get some cash out of the already existing games. And then they're, air quotes, bringing back some of the original Telltale developers, but as freelance work or as contract work.
Which that's not promising.
With the chance that they can become full-time employees down the road. And I mean, you could take that a lot of different ways, but this is corporate America, so my take on it is they're trying to fuck them as much as they possibly can before kicking them down the road. But who knows? Maybe they're nice guys. Doubt it, but maybe. And I mean, that's honestly the essence of the article. Most of the places that reported on this completely skipped all of the details and the nuance that we just mentioned.
Just hopped on the train of Telltale's back. Woo!
Yeah. But even if they did bring everybody back on, they still wouldn't have all of their IP, like all the licenses and everything. So even if, in a perfect world for the employees who suddenly lost their jobs and didn't receive compensation, which I think that there's still a bunch of them trying to get the money that Telltale owes them, and no idea how that's going to go. Probably not well. It's corporate America after all. Even if they got all of that handled, they still wouldn't have all the licenses, so Telltale wouldn't be fully back regardless.
Honestly, looking at how they handled things, them not having all their licenses may not have been such a bad thing. Because that's one of the problems that they had was that they spread themselves too thinly, so... and they didn't upgrade their damn engine.
I was going to say, the biggest issue, I think, is that they never, in like 10 years, didn't upgrade their engine. And then the second biggest thing, yeah, they definitely spread themselves too thin with licensing deals. I mean, I think they were trying to chase what was popular, hoping that that would be something for them instead of focusing on the quality of their games. But, what do I know about such things?
I mean, they do still have The Wolf Among Us, and that was really the only one of their upcoming games I was really interested in a season 2 of. Because, honestly, Borderlands, that will get tied up in a Gregorian knot with Borderlands 3, let's be honest there.
Yeah.
I didn't really care that much about The Walking Dead. I didn't really care about Game of Thrones. Batman was interesting, but I never got around to playing it because the first one supposedly was so horribly optimized that no computer could play it all that well. And honestly, what I really liked out of Telltale was their earlier stuff. The fact that they, had Sam and Max run off, walk off into the sunset. That was still a highly popular game. Or franchise, and they let it go because they had The Walking Dead be a hit. Tales from Monkey Island, another one that they just did one season of and never really considered another one.
Yeah, I'm not as big a fan of that older stuff. Like, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, but it was also more point and click and not the whatever you want to call what they ended up doing, the Telltale style of adventure.
Choose your own adventure games.
Yeah, it's just...
Yeah, and I don't like point and click as much. Nothing wrong with those games.
Well, a good point and click. That's the thing, is that you may have been tainted on the Sierra style of point and click of where it was built solely on the premise of, okay, you'll either need to walk through or to call the 1-900 number.
I mean, I guess you could show me what you consider to be a good point and click game, but I mean, I've played a bunch of them over the years, and I've never liked any of them really.
May have to try that sometime. Not sure what would be a good entry point just off the top of my head, though. That would be something to consider for another time. But yeah, Telltale. I mean, it's hard to be excited for this for me just because, this is really just not what the mainstream gaming media is pushing out. This isn't some sort of a miraculous revival. It's just an acquisition.
Yeah. So I don't have anything else to add. I mean, I hope that...
Hope we're wrong.
I don't know. Yeah. I hope that, new management does better than old management. But it's corporate America, people. I don't have much faith in that. Just a tiny amount of hope against reason.
You keep saying corporate America,
inside,
I'm going to have
optimist.
that Rocco song going through my head.
All right. Let's move it on over then to our next news topic. Former Starbound devs accused Chucklefish of massively unethical working practices.
Oh boy. Where to start with this one? Because this is really kind of boiled down to he said, she said, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And honestly, I think the truth lies somewhere in that murky gray area in between the two extremes here. So, Chucklefish had a community outreach program where the community could bring their work assets into Starbound itself. But a lot of these developers were also underage, so what they were doing was offering it as an exposure opportunity, which is just such a scummy move. But on the flip side of things, we have, 16, 17-year-olds submitting their work under a agreement that they do not get rights to it, and it's essentially an unpaid internship, for lack of a better term here. And then getting upset when the company makes money off their work. So, it's a little head scratching to me,
I think, regardless of where the real sort of, I don't want to say truth, where the
unfake
whatever. Yeah. I think that it
is very scummy that they have a agreement in place to give exposure and no compensation. I always hated that.
Yeah, I do think this is unethical. I don't know, sort of on a scale of like...
murdering puppies to Hitler?
Yeah. Sure. On that scale, I don't know exactly where it falls. But, I mean, you think about how, for the most part, are generally sort of naive and optimistic, or, sort of gung-ho about this sort of thing that teenagers are. Like, a company taking advantage of that is very unethical. Mm-hmm. Like, legally, is this all above board? Possibly. Probably. I mean, it would have to go to court to know for sure, because we're at the finger-pointing stage. But is it unethical? Definitely. Definitely. Because, I mean, for the most part, teenagers don't have the sort of experience, forethought, insight to be like, well, if I sign this, I mean, yes, I might get some exposure out of it, but I'm going to be doing, in the case of this one person, Damien? No, what's his name? Yeah, Damon, not Damien. Damon said that he put in hundreds of hours and wasn't paid for it. I mean, yeah, unpaid internships, essentially. But you did sign the contract, but
Or they had the agreement.
I feel like or had the agreement. Like, I feel like that's, exploiting minors to an extent. And it's like, where does this fall legally? I don't know. It's got to go to court and have some judges and lawyers decide. But is it scummy? Is it unethical? Absolutely. 100%. Because kids don't know better. I mean, if you're like a 40-year-old adult going into this situation, you should probably know better. And I'm a little less inclined to be sympathetic. But, teenagers are dumb. And they don't have the life experience to know better. So, taking advantage of that is shitty.
I mean, anytime that you're told, oh, but you get exposure, that's bullshit. All right?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't pay my bills with exposure or feed myself or my family with exposure. I can die from exposure.
Well, you can get fed if you go expose yourself to someone else.
wink. Yeah, 3 hots and a cot. Because I'm going to jail. Nobody wants to see that. At least no random strangers on the street. I don't know. Somebody probably wants to see it. Everybody is somebody else's type somewhere in the world.
And that scares me.
Gives me hope.
Yeah.
I mean, I did something right. I got married and I've got a kid, so I've got proof. I've got proof that somebody's into me. Yay. I just did like a little fist pump. You can't see that. I was genuinely very happy that I'm loved by someone.
And then things go quiet.
Yeah, I don't. You got quiet on me, buddy. That'll be all cut out in the final edit, but you got quiet on me.
Well, I was just trying to figure out where to go from this because, I mean, it's a lot of finger pointing right now and a lot of accusations, and there's just it's tough to really side one way or the other because yes, the kids knew what they were getting into, but at the same time, they're stupid kids, and the company shouldn't be taking advantage of that. If the company was impressed by some of their work, throw out a paid contract, which there was something on here where one of the artist was offered a contract, but they didn't want to be tied down to it. I think it was in the Reddit feed that someone did a little bit more digging. So, there's not 100% truth on the artist's side, but there's not, that doesn't exonerate the, assuming, of course, that comment is true because, trust but verify. Right. But at the same time, that doesn't exonerate the company saying, well, they were offered a pittance, but they turned it down. Well, yeah, but that doesn't make you less dicks.
Yeah.
It's really sad to see it's Chucklefish, though, because, they've published some really good games. So, that's going to have me take pause on that now.
I do want to say I definitely believe what did I say his name was? I just said it a minute ago. Damon. I keep wanting to say Damien. Like, I think that, and my brain's like, no, that's not right.
No, that's Batman's kid.
I do believe him and the other people who have stated this. Like, it doesn't surprise me that a company is exploiting people. Like, I agree with you. I like Chucklefish's games. They've published some very good games,
including some that we've done on the Game Club this past year.
Yeah, but I totally believe that they exploited people because they're a company, and I'm a cynical old man at this point. So I totally believe this guy. I want to say kid, but that would have been, I guess, years ago when he was a kid. But this person and other people who, are saying that they have done this to them too. So, I mean, if they genuinely want to do something about it, take them to court. I don't know how far it'll get if you do it in America, but you might be able to do it in other places too. Also, you could take it to court in more liberal states like California, New York, places like that. Like, you might be able to do that, which would increase your chances of a favorable verdict, reasonable verdict. But, sometimes we do see decisions in cases where the court rules against the companies and is like, hey, you were unethical, so you're going to pay these damages. And then it goes from there. But that's about the only way to definitely settle this, to get past the finger-pointing stage, even though I do believe them. Like, it is still he said, she said, until somebody takes it to court.
Yeah, and supposedly they had... Now I'm having to go dig up the Reddit comment posts because that had the proper name, but the composer for Undertale, they had the composer for Undertale submitting music, and they turned it down at first. And then once he got big with Undertale, because he submitted that work under contract, they suddenly decided, we'll take this. Which is, that's how it kind of works sometimes. Someone submits something, and they're unknown, then they suddenly get really popular, and, we'll take this now. Oh, here it is. If it'll load, there we go. Yeah, Toby Fox from Undertale also had a Twitter post, which I'll add to the show notes right there. Actually, I composed about an hour of work in progress music that ended up completely scrapped because I wasn't in the IRC channel enough. After I left that, I completely believe what Clark and everybody else was saying. So, which was one of the other people that's been throwing accusations. So, a pretty decently known name that has some credibility behind them. So, that's why I'm leaning towards the artists, saying that they definitely were exploited. But I hate being like the playing devil's advocate on this one. But when I was doing more creative work online, doing some articles and stuff, one of the first things you learned was you do not do work for exposure, and you do not pay to get your work out there. Those are two major red flags. You never do that. And this is just an idiot typing on a keyboard. This doesn't take talent. So actual artists and actual musicians doing this, it just tells me that they should have been taken aside and say, "No, you don't do this. What's wrong with you?" But I realize that's victim blaming at this point.
Yeah. The young and the dumb, the inexperienced, have got a little bit more of an excuse for that.
Mm-hmm. But also, just how did they get the contract? Because, a lot of these kids are underage. How are they able to legally sign that?
Well, it can depend on states or regions or local laws. I mean, we think of in the United States, like 18 is sort of the age of consent to do all of this stuff. But that's not necessarily true. In Tennessee, for example, at the age of 16, legally anything that has to do with your healthcare, you are allowed to say your parents can't be involved. We make that clear to everyone whenever we do anything at work that, involving counseling or whatever. Most doctors' offices that I know of don't tell anybody that. But in Tennessee, you can be 16 and have full confidentiality on all of your healthcare stuff. And I know that, healthcare is different from a contract, but, laws are different in different places. So potentially wherever either the kids were or the company, local laws might allow for them at 16 to sign a legally binding contract.
Yeah, which I'm not a lawyer, and we do not contract Leonard French, so.
Yeah, very true. Both cases. He might weigh in. I have unsubscribed from his channel.
I didn't check to see if he did a video on that.
But, I mean, he wasn't producing a lot of stuff that I was interested in, so I unsubscribed from his channel to keep it from being so cluttered up. But
that hardly stops me. Let's see. Did he do that? I'm not seeing anything. He did a couple videos about Kim Davis. But that's fun. That's the lady in Kentucky that was not giving marriage licenses to the gays.
Yep.
And let's see, he also talked about come on, give me the full title here. Why don't the police have a duty to respond when a 911 operator mocked a woman that was drowning? It was literally, she gave 2 weeks notice and it was her last shift, and she did not give a damn. And no, I'm not joking about that. She actually was on a phone with a woman that was drowning and mocking her.
Well, that just fills my heart with something.
Bow? Yeah, I don't see anything about the Chucklefish. There was a rather funny dumpster fire copyright thing on Twitter about a week ago that he weighed in on. That was always fun. I mean, literal dumpster fire. But shall we fill your heart with other things?
Let's do that. Let's go talk about something a little positive. A new games-based curriculum offered by High School Esports League and Microsoft. So this has existed for a little while now. Let me get to... I didn't realize it. This was the first time I had heard of it. The HSEL gaming concept, or the High School Esports League, HSEL, this thing has existed since 2013. It is essentially a club. In the United States, there's, I think in every school there are clubs of some kind. In the United States, there's several student organizations that are regional or nationwide that are sort of like your next level. Like, you can get certifications from them. They look good on like college applications and things like that. I compared it to the TSA, which is not the shitty TSA at airports, but the good one, the Technology Students Association, which I was a part of in high school and went and did some web design stuff and some coding and things like that, like at these competitions. And I had a couple of certifications. They're long expired now, but I had them for a while for web development and network engineering, and one that was like a fancy way to say like IT. I think it was like hardware specialist certified or something by them. Those might not exist anymore, but in the mid to late aughts, I got these certifications and went to like these conferences and things. But this looks and feels very much like that. They've got an official like starter packet that you can get for free. So if you want to put this thing together at your school and like get the ball rolling, you can get the starter packet for free. It's got a lot of stuff in it. It's got links to other like PowerPoint presentations, things that you can use to show it to your school to be like, hey, this is a real thing. This isn't some bullshit. But then if you want to take it to the next level and sort of participate, you can apply to the HSEL and actually get like actual recruitment, go to tournaments and things like that. It's got places where you can get grant and scholarship funding for your program. That way you don't have to do just fundraising, or you don't have to do only fundraising. You can get money through them. And then you can get invited to or go to their regional tournaments. It looks like there's some stuff in here that I can't, like in the basic packet, that I wasn't able to see, but it looks like courses, access to like a website, things where you can post your own leaderboards for your school, build teams. Looks like there's support for a bunch of different esports games. This is super, super, super cool. It looks like they've been doing some research, and some of this is just like, hey, kids that go to extracurricular activities tend to do better than kids that don't from a social standpoint. They get involved. A lot of times their grades go up because they're more engaged with their school. Yeah. So this is saying like somewhere in here, 80% of students in this league had not participated in other extracurricular activities. And I think that makes sense. A lot of sort of gamers still, like a huge chunk of people, like that's their hobby. They don't do sports, they don't do music, like they play games. And for kids especially, like, they dump a ton of time into whatever that thing is because they have the time to do so. And when I was a kid, I didn't participate in very many clubs or extracurriculars because I was a gamer. The main reason that I joined at my school, the computer club, which was how I participated in all this TSA stuff, is because twice a semester they would do a LAN party. Like, that was the whole reason that I joined. And it turned into some other stuff because I got invested. But like, I didn't really engage in a lot of other extracurriculars. I've talked in here, I played golf a little and a couple of other things, but like primarily I was one of them there nerds, and I played video games all the time. So I think that still holds true today for anybody. And there's not really a lot of extracurriculars or hobbies at school, or not hobbies, extracurriculars or school-sponsored activities that involve gaming. I mean, I suspect it's better than when I was in high school, but, you think about most schools focus on sports or maybe, music, their band, that sort of thing. And all of these other sort of STEM-related clubs or technology-related clubs typically more on the back burner, but they're still there. But there's, as far as I know, nothing else for gaming except for this. So it gives an avenue for those kids to get involved and then to see the benefits of being in regular social contact with their peers and getting some one-on-one attention from teachers or administrators. So, you know, to a certain extent, like, well, yeah, duh, kids being in this stuff is going to get improvements in their GPA and they're going to be more engaged in school and have more friends and higher social interactions. But that's kind of just what clubs do. And now that you're recognizing, like, hey, gaming is pretty cool. Like, you're not some weirdo who lives in his mom's basement and plays video games. Like, you're a normal human, just like everyone else.
Well, unless you're a Republican, then, you know, you still think that.
Well, fuck that. But, you know, you still get to think that you're... Or, still get... God, now you got me all off my thought pattern. But, you know, these kids get to participate, too, and then get to see the benefits that all of the other kids who've participated in the other programs get to experience. Like, I was really happy about this. I knew about the 3 shitty news topics we had this week, and I saw this, and I was like, huh, that's interesting. Is this, like, bullshit? Because the article title, I mean, it doesn't, like, sound bad, but it's kind of neutral.
Yeah.
You know, like, this thing is offered. So I was like, is this good? Is this bad? And then I pulled up all the material and did a quick perusal through it.
Yeah, and I'll let you kind of have this
very
since
impressed.
you were more experienced with something like this, because my school was absolute shit when it came to clubs. There was no after-school stuff outside of band, which I think that's pretty much, you know, standard.
Yeah.
They only had clubs a couple of the years I was there, and there was hardly any activities with them whatsoever. So, you know, my school sucked pretty much, you know, on every conceivable level. Which I'm glad is closed.
Fair enough.
No, I'm not bitter. Fuck you.
Nah. I didn't say you were bitter. I said fair enough. But yeah, I was very, very excited to see this. Very happy about this. I'm going to, I mean, I don't know if it'll come back up on the show, but just because I'm interested, I'm going to read some more into this stuff. Learn some more about it. It says you can request the full packet, so I don't know if you have to pay for that or not, but if you don't have to pay for it, I'm going to request a packet.
Uh-oh.
And then just see what's up with it. I mean, my kids in, you know, kindergarten.
Start them young.
I'm going to start a gaming league.
The Minecraft League.
I mean, it would be the Minecraft League. That would be all right.
No, you can't start him in Fortnite now. You know, get those motor skills, right?
I have noticed massive improvement in his motor skills and some creativity stuff within like 3 weeks of him starting to play Minecraft on his own. It's incredible. Like, from an educational standpoint, like, I'm aware of these sorts of benefits and things that come along with this stuff, but like getting to witness it firsthand has been really cool. We were talking about other games today that I think he would like, and he just needs to be a little bit older for, or I need to see just a little more improvement in his motor skills before we...
No, you throw him in the
try
deep
some of those other
end.
games.
Break out the Zachtronics library.
You know, I have mixed feelings about that, because he doesn't know other games. Like, he knows Minecraft and a few other games that we have played together or he's watched me play, but, you know, he has very little experience with gaming, so, you know, that would just be like his experience. And plenty of kids back in the day played all those games and loved them and became gamers and shit, so who knows? Gonna have to break out the Raspberry Pi, try playing some of those games with him, because he's watched me and Katie play together, but he's never really tried to play very many of them on his own. I don't know why. Have to get that back out. Or, well, not back out. It's plugged in on the entertainment center. Have to play it some more. Anyways, once again, off on a tangent.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else really here to cover, because we've covered it all.
Alrighty then. Well, with that out of the way, move on to Community Corner, which there were no emails. Were there tweets?
Not that I've seen in quite a while.
I
think the canary's dead.
Oh no. That means just a quick what's up about Community Game Night. There was not one this previous week. I was gone. But this coming week is Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, this will be interesting.
So, if you've got either if you've just purchased the game outright or if you have Xbox Game Pass, download Sea of Thieves. You don't have to play a lot.
Honestly,
you should go through
not really any.
Well, I would encourage you to go through just like the basic air quotes character creation, and then just like kind of get a feel for how the game controls.
Yeah, which I hope I just overlooked the field of view slider, because that game has a narrow field of view.
I don't remember, because it's been over a year since I played it. Because I got it initially through Game Pass, and tried it out last year or longer ago, whenever it came out. So yeah, that's a quick mosey.
But if you
Rach, where can they contact us?
If you wish to contribute to the Community Corner, go wake up the canary over on Twitter with VGL Podcast, or email us vglpodcast@gmail.com. So it looks like we have time for a doobly-doo.
Indeed.
For a discovery queue. And once again, I have my discovery queue open. And once again,
I know.
I have something pretty immediately. I think this is my first one. Legend.
Well, shit. That was my first one, too. I was excited.
Do you want it?
No, you take it. I'll go on to my next one.
So, from Magnus Game Studio, what have they... Oh, this is their first thing. It has a very Animal Crossing-like feel to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
With a little bit of Stardew in it as well. It's still in early access. It has some very mixed reviews, so it's probably not very finished at the moment, which that looks like it's what it is. But it is also, it's in the sort of mid-range of AA pricing. I mean, it's very cute, but it's just, where are they going to end up with it? It's like a combination of Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, and a little bit of Monster Rancher. So, yeah, this will be interesting to see where it goes. So, add to wish list.
Sweet. So I got Gears 5, which I was really surprised for a second, and then I remember that Microsoft said that they were going to start putting a lot of their games on Steam. But still, I'm a pretty big fan of the Gears of War franchise. I'm actually going to play through Gears of War 4 since it's on Game Pass, and Gears 5 is available through Game Pass, so I'll be ready for Gears 5. This one, I believe, is supposed to be open world, which I don't know how that's going to handle in the Gears of War franchise, because Gears of War has always been a linear, cover-based shooter, mostly in hallways, or outside areas that feel like hallways. The original Chest High Wall game. That's probably not true, but I was thinking of Yahtzee there for a second.
Don't forget, guys, the size of refrigerators.
Yeah. Oh, 3-player co-op campaign. Interesting. But, I mean, Gears of War on PC somewhere other than Game Pass. So if you want to play Gears of War, but don't want to either purchase it from the really terrible Microsoft store or not ready to buy into Game Pass, you can get it on Steam.
So I picked up something interesting. This is from Team 17. Monster Sanctuary. Monster taming meets Metroidvania. Collect, train, and battle monsters in this lovely side-view pixel world. So that's pretty much what it says on the tin. It's, once again, I'm getting Monster Rancher vibes from this, mixed with, of course, Metroidvania. It's still early access. It has some pretty decent reviews on it, though, but it doesn't have a ton of reviews. It just released last week? Yeah, last week. But it looks like some pretty varied landscapes here. And, of course, some really interesting monster types. And it looks like it's a combination of, like, a turn-based strategy, or, sorry, turn-based combat on the full-on, almost Pokemon-esque battles. But then the different monsters are essentially an item that you could use to traverse the Metroidvania world. It's really interesting looking. So, yeah, that's definitely worth a look if you're interested in the Metroidvania genre, or just like making cute animals fight one another to the death.
It looks interesting. I got it like 2 games after you said it, because I had a couple of really shitty, garbage-looking games, and then it popped up on mine. But I got another one. Okay, hanging on.
Sorry about that. Somebody across the street was shining flashlights into the windows of the apartment building. So I went to go look and see what was going on.
No problemo. But yes, I got one. Buoyancy. Think Waterworld. Buoyancy is a city-building strategy game where you build, manage, and move a floating city on an oceanic world.
Yeah,
explore and scavenge resources scattered around the endless waters. So, Waterworld the game. I'm very excited. I love Waterworld. It's a terrible movie. It's a trash, garbage fire movie, but I love it. It's so bad and campy. He's got fucking gills behind his ears. Just, mwah. Major spoilers for Waterworld if you've never seen that movie. But, I mean, I don't really know if there's anything else to say. Waterworld city building and management game. 2 thumbs up.
So, I got a remix, or a remaster. Spyro Reignited Trilogy. So, the original trilogy of Spyro games on Steam, remastered. So, if you were a fan of Spyro back in the day, there you go, right?
There you go.
I mean, is there really anything else to say about that? I mean, it's pretty much just bringing back the old PS1 classics. I only really got to play the first Spyro game, so this may be something to look into. It is $40 though, because whew, right?
Yeah, I have played a couple of Spyro games. That was Eon. Don't worry about that. I'll cut it out in the edit. But yeah, I've played a couple of Spyro games.
You were just
I
bored.
enjoyed them. But
You were bored of Spyro.
I'm sleepy. Yeah, I was bored of Spyro. No, I like Spyro. It was alright. But I kind of moved past that stage of gaming for that type of game.
Yeah, the animal mascot platformer.
3D platformer. Yeah. So I got one. Perfect Crime. Looks like a true crime game. It says Perfect Crime will produce every detail of a criminal case. How to make use of common objects to make a perfect crime is all up to you. Looks like you can create your own. People can log in or can create their own murders or their own crimes for people to play through. So, if I'm reading this correctly, it looks like there's sort of a single-player component where that you're going through true crime cases, and then you also create cases for players online to play through. One of those interesting things where that the community-created content will basically make or break the game, I think. Yeah, it's also okay. All single player. Just making sure there was like a multiplayer component to it or something, but it's all single player. Cool. I mean, I like this sort of thing. Sounds like an interesting idea. I guess the only way to know for sure is to see how they pull it off.
Yeah, I got another one. I still have a couple more left in my queue. The Undermine. An action-adventure roguelike with a bit of RPG tossed in. Adventure deep into the Undermine and discover powerful relics, deep, deadly enemies, hidden secrets, and a few friends to help you along the way. So, pretty standard roguelike from the looks of it, but it has a very clean art style to it. It's hard to really explain without going to look at it. It has some really high quality artwork to it. But it also seems that it has a mining mechanic where you're going down and grabbing stuff to mine ores to sell. which I've only really seen in the SteamWorld series. So, a nice little twist on things.
Mm-hmm. So I got Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. I don't really know if I need to say anything else about it, but it's rated mostly negative. I'm looking... looks like it's got some massive performance issues, and that's why it's mostly negative. Locked at a 4:3 aspect ratio.
I just got Final Fantasy
Huge issues with frame rate.
Let's see. It looks like it also has been censored. Censored content added a skirt to the Siren Summon. Renoa's outfit shows less cleavage. Pre-release info. So, they're going through and sanitizing it a little bit.
Isn't Final Fantasy VIII on Steam not remastered?
Or at least it was.
Oops, I just accidentally pulled up Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, it's on there.
And I've got Final Fantasy VIII. I guess the non-remastered. I've got that already on Steam. I've got 8:13. Cool. I have Final Fantasy 13. I must have bought these at some point. 2015. 4 years ago. I guess I thought I was gonna play him again. I thought wrong. Actually, I think I've tried to play Final Fantasy 13 and it runs like garbage, and so I stopped playing it. That's coming back to me now.
Yeah, that's why I refunded it. Was that tried playing it, it ran like garbage, so I refunded it.
I remember playing Final Fantasy 8 for the first time.
I was just
amazed.
I was terribly confused by
the visuals. Oh yeah, totally. But I loved the cutscenes, like the visual fidelity. That was like mind blown back when I was a kid. I mean, they still look pretty decent. The pre-rendered cutscenes, they still look pretty good. I mean, they're not amazing like they once were, just time and all that, but they still look pretty decent. Just kind of watching the trailers and stuff. Man, now I want to play Final Fantasy VIII. I don't have time to play Final Fantasy VIII. I wonder if it'll run on my laptop.
Probably.
I wonder how well it plays with keyboard and mouse. Probably pretty bad.
Well, some of the summons may be a bit of a pain, if memory serves correctly.
How big is it? 1,600 megabytes. I got room on my laptop SSD for that. Well, we'll see if I play Final Fantasy VIII this week.
If you play it all in 1 week, that would be something.
Oh, I won't play the whole thing in 1 week. I just mean play it at all. All right.
Yeah, I only had the last game on my list. It looks interesting enough that I'll throw it on. Just why the hell not, right? Heave Ho. This is
pirates potentially.
No, this is a local only, from the looks of it, 4-player co-op game with a simple goal: don't fall to your death. Players will use their 2 hands and outstretched grip of their friends to grapple across each level. So it's a platformer.
That sounds
it's weird looking, but at the same time, local co-op. It has seen a resurgence on PC. It's just a little bit sad that that there's no online component that you can do. But pretty simplistic, but at the same time interesting.
I've got my last one is what I'm gonna put up, but I'm trying to figure something out. Sorry, let me. Where do I need to go? Here. So this game is called Crystar or Crystar. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. It's a JRPG. I'm trying to figure out if it has been ported to PC or if it has been designed for PC. I was just looking to see if that was in the description or anything itself.
Well, considering I search Crystar, it says Crystar gameplay trailer, PlayStation 4.
Okay.
So I would say ported. I think that's a fair thing.
Yeah, definitely. Although I will say it's interesting to see, like, JRPGs have been coming to PC a lot more in the last year or 2 years, or maybe I've just been noticing them more for some reason. I mean, nothing about this particularly stands out to me, except that it's a recent, a new.
Yeah, it's more action focused from the looks of it.
JRPG on PC. But, I mean, you know, just looks like a JRPG. But
yeah, that's Japanese.
To see another one on Steam. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being weird about it, but I feel like there's been a lot more JRPGs on PC in the last year or so than there have been in a long time, or maybe ever. I mean, I feel like it, aside from the odd indie game here or there, or something developed on, RPG Maker? RPG Maker. You know, there were no, like, sort of AA or larger JRPGs. You know, you get your few Final Fantasy ports and then a couple of other ones, and that was it. But I feel like there's been a lot of them that I've seen here recently, which makes me happy. I like JRPGs. I wish I had a lot more time to devote to JRPGs.
Oh, damn.
Play a shitload.
Okay,
of them.
I want you to. You still on this Steam page for this?
No, I closed it, but I can
go
back
to
really
the community
quick.
hub for it.
Okay.
And then go to screenshots.
Community hub. Screenshots. Is it porn? Softcore porn. Aw, yeah.
This just got Game of the Year for you.
Lies. I'm very interested now.
I was looking at the reviews and they were
all
talking
about
about
this
how
game.
it's uncensored. And about uncensored. Well, the screenshots will definitely not lie there.
I mean, there's a butt and some cleavage and more cleavage. More cleavage. I don't see any more butts, though. There's just the one picture of the butt. And there's no nipples.
Maybe it's only like one butt in the game. Or how long has this been out? Maybe they haven't progressed to the second butt. I know that
there's somebody in some lingerie.
I know that there's a lot of cosmetic DLC. But that seems to be a way of things for JRPGs.
So this is a picture of the same butt, but there's like a wind effect on it that makes it look like she's farting. I don't know if that's like a move that causes that effect, or if somebody added it in Photoshop or something, but it's not good. It's not good. You can add farts to the list of things I'm not into. The short list of things I'm not into.
Okay, so farting clown spiders. Got it.
Yeah. Although a farting clown spider might be funny. Oh, there's another butt. Different butt this time.
Especially if it's hard enough that it gets propelled off its web, you know?
That would be funny. Terrifying, but funny. Because then they would find a new way to propel themselves. Oh, that's a weird X-ray of a torso where you can still see the cleavage in the X-ray. I'm just scrolling through the infinite community hub photos.
Looking for more butts, let's be honest.
I mean, there's that same butt again, the first butt. Oh, that looks like Sailor Moon. That screenshot looks like it was taken straight out of Sailor Moon. I should stop, but I'm still scrolling. So your queue's done, and my queue is done. So Rach, why don't you save us and hit him with them socials?
Oh, I've been Caffeine Rage. You can find me on the YouTubes, Gaming with Caffeine Rage. You can find me on Twitter, Gaming with CR. Maybe someday you'll find me on Twitch, Caffeine_Rage, and of course you can find me on Steam. Caffeine Rage is there as well. And you've been?
Gaming Psychologist. You can find me on the YouTubes by searching for Gaming Psychologist, on Twitter at JMA4707, and on Steam, you can send a friend request to JArthur4707 if you wish.
And if you wish to know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password for this week is hot tea.
Nice.
Hot tea. What we've been powered by tonight.
Mine's room temperature at this point.
What?
What's left of my second cup.
Mine's actually still pretty damn hot. It's down to...
My flower mug doesn't do a good job, I guess.
Yeah, it's down to where I could drink it without, scorching my throat. very good Tumblr. I'll have to send you a link to that one, huh?
2 thumbs up. Good Tumblr. Would tumble again.
Yeah, but it's not worth it to get a handle, because according to the reviews, it sucks.
0 out of 10. Totally undrinkable.
Yeah, because it's a handle. I mean, to be fair, some people, may not want to handle their drinking problem all that well.
I think it helps me to have a handle on it. Makes it easier for me to drink.
But if you wish to contact us about your drinking problem, or any other problems that you may have, gaming related would be useful, though. I'm desperately trying to get the segue here. You can contact us once again, vglpodcast@gmail.com, with your letters, voicemails, gaming related topics, or just tweet them to us at vglpodcast. Our lovely, lovely patrons have paid for this absolute madness, and we're sorry. And I know you're not. You're never sorry. You have no shame.
I'm never sorry. No shame.
Patreon.com/VGLpodcast for more information on that. And our lovely patrons have made our Podbean account possible. You can find us at vglpodcast.podbean.com, which hosts the RSS feed, show notes, links to all our material online, or you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, or your podcatcher of choice. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground, and Doobly Doo is our Discovery Cube music, both by Kevin McLeod. You can find his work over at incompetech.com, and
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, we'll bye now.
See you next time.